Hello, guys. Hi, welcome back to another video. I'm so excited for this one because in this video, we are discussing Everyone is You Pushed Out. As you can see by the title, we're going to discuss this this concept, and um, we're going to do it in a way that also combines the law of thought transmission. So, look, guys. Hello, hi, welcome in. If you guys are just coming on in, um, hi, say where you're from. I always love hearing where you guys are from. But for today's video, okay, if you guys have not noticed, I have at all costs avoided talking about everyone is you pushed out. I'm always one to talk about, everyone is mirroring you, people are a reflection of you, all that good stuff. But the concept of everyone is you pushed out is so complex. And it really is. I mean, for me personally, you just have to choose what resonates with you because this topic is it differs. People have differing opinions, and even Neville, when he starts talking about the law of thought transmission, it ties into everyone as you pushed out. So let me just back up. Let me explain to anyone who is new here or maybe doesn't even know what the heck I'm talking about. What is everyone is you pushed out? It's this concept that everyone in your reality is a reflection of you. Everything, like every object, everything that's happening to you, the way that people respond to you, if you watch the news, like whatever is happening to you and what you are experiencing is a reflection of your internal state. That is very big and it can feel like a lot of pressure, right? But let's look at the perspective, the differing perspectives, because if we say everyone is you pushed out and you really enjoy your circumstances and people are treating you nicely and you are getting what you want out of life, then everyone is you pushed out is a great concept to understand, right? But in most cases, there's a lot of the good and the bad mixed in, or things that we view as good and as bad. So, hi, if you guys are coming into the video, hi, hello. If you guys have questions and comments, I'm going to answer them near the end of the message, but this is a big one. So I wanted to do it live because it's better when I flow and am in that flow state. Whatever I'm receiving can just like download and then it can just be that and it's instant and we can get this topic over with because honestly, I don't care for this topic too much, only because of how sticky and how many holes there are in it. So, okay, everyone is you pushed out. What I want to talk about next is something that Bashar has mentioned many, many times, and it's this idea that the universe. Hi, Sid. Oh, I love you. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, I hope you're doing well. I know you're doing well. So there's this idea, this concept that everything in life is fundamentally meaningless. And just hold on, right? So everything inherently doesn't have meaning. And this is good. This is actually a gift because when you are able to neutralize things and see life as just it's happening, these are the things, these are the circumstances that are happening, then you, as the operant power, can choose and determine what things mean. You can choose things to mean an amazing thing. You can also choose things to mean a negative thing for you. It's really up to you. Life is at the baseline, it's fundamentally meaningless. So you have these options, you have these choices, and that's good news, right? You can choose whatever you want. Now, the law of thought transmission, which is something that Neville Goddard talks about. Amazing, you're sorry. No, you're fine. I love hearing from you. Tell Ty I said hey. Okay, so going back to these different principles. So Neville, he talks about the law of thought transmission, right? And I've talked about this before in one of my videos where he's saying that the law of thought transmission is vibration. We are a signal. Our being is a signal, and we are transmitting thoughts to other people, places, things, objects that are coming towards us, people that are coming towards us. We are this huge magnet, essentially, and we have the ability to talk to other people. Okay, now that I've explained everyone is you pushed out and the law of thought transmission, here's where it gets a bit sticky, and there's flaws in this concept that people like to dig at, and for great reasoning because it makes sense. So this was inspired by a comment I received, and I'm going to read it. I have my computer right here. So this comment is, and I'm not going to mention who commented this, but they said, "Can my SP reject my thoughts?" Because this goes like against everyone is you pushed out, but it is something that Neville said in Thought Transmission, which is that the subject has no power to resist your controlled subjective ideas of him unless the state affirmed by you to be true of him is a state he is incapable of wishing as true of another. So, and I'm going to read what Neville Goddard says again, but the only power to reject a subjective word is to be incapable of wishing a similar state another. If your fixed idea is not subjectively accepted by the one toward whom it is directed, it rebounds to you from whom it came. In other words, if you have a thought, you're a signal, and you say something, or you have a thought and it goes to someone, you want them to reach out to you, or you're having this dialogue where they're saying something to you and they don't accept it, it will rebound to you. Like people have this free will, or people have this opportunity to reject your thoughts, which goes completely against what Neville Goddard talks about, right? Because in one moment he's saying you can be, do, or have anything, you can create your own reality, everything that's happening to you, like you have control over that. But then at the same time, if you're wanting something to happen, people, other forms of consciousness need to be accepting of that, right? They need to be on board with that, or else it's just going to rebound from you. Oh, goodness. It's this topic is just going to make my head explode. It's really one of those concepts. Okay. So he said this about malicious thoughts. I've always come from a place of love, obviously, but logically speaking, if an evil person persists in an affirmation, the person he is trying to manifest, he has to conform because anyone has free will in the reality because the law always works, right? Which, by the way, we've seen time and time again in history how people with bad intentions still get what they want. So then it's like, what exactly is it? Hi. So what exactly is it, right? I understand why Neville said this, but in general, can the SP have the free will to choose what thoughts to accept and what not? Thanks in advance. Okay, this was a great question. It inspired this video, and I know I've been avoiding this concept because of the holes that are in it, and trying to better explain it is like my main objective. I really just want to make sure that my thoughts are clear on this, and I think they're clear enough. So let's get into free will. What exactly is free will? Neville has talked about this. Free will is essentially the idea, the free will that we have been given at birth to think the thoughts that we want to think. That's what free will is. Now, free will, when we look at, I mean, in our society in America, and I'm sure in other parts of the world, free will is looked upon as um, this ability to do whatever you want, right? It's this ability um, to make the choices that you want to, whether they are good or bad. You have this ability to not follow your higher self. You have this ability to, stay in a negative state, do things that aren't in your best interest. You have the ability to make your life and other people's lives not so great. So Free will, when we start thinking about free will, it's like this idea that you can think anything that you want to think, and those thoughts and those emotions that are tied behind those thoughts will produce actions. It's this cycle, right? I've talked about that too. A times B equals B times A. It's this formula. I'm not going to get into that, but the law of thought transmission, meaning, okay, so if I have thoughts and everyone is me pushed out, and I want this person to behave in a certain way, but they are in a different resonance, then what exactly is going on here? Do I have control or do I not have control? Okay, I hope that you guys are still with me. Thank you for liking the video already. Um, I'm going to read exactly what Neville Goddard says, and then I'm going to give my perspective on it because, again, these are just perspectives. I even brought out, I had to bring out some backup because there's different perspectives on this principle and this concept. This is the Four Agreements, by the way. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz, and I haven't read this in a really long time, but some principles stick with you, and I had to go into my bookshelf and get some other books to back up this concept. Okay, so this is what he says. Let's see here. He says, the subject has no power, and I'm reading it officially. The subject has no power to resist your controlled, subjective ideas of him, unless the state you affirm to be true of him is a state he is incapable of wishing to be true of another. And then he said, unless the state you affirm to be true of him is a state he is incapable of wishing to be true of another. That I just repeated the same thing. I'm on the website where they're quoting this law of thought transmission. So basically, okay, here's what I'm going to say, and I have this written down. I've thought of examples where this applies, right? Because the law of thought transmission, it is what it states. You can tell people what to do, or you can have an imaginal act. You can have people say things in your head and then have them respond to you. And we're doing this naturally. It's a very automatic response. If you are at work and you have a conversation with your boss before you have that conversation, or if you're arguing with a spouse, if you're complimenting a spouse, whatever that case may be, we're having conversations with people all the time in our head. We're just not like very aware that we're doing so. So that's exactly what the law of thought transmission is. Examples of it being repelled and rebounded is, for example, celebrities. Celebrities, since they are in a vibration that allows a lot of access to different energies. So, for example, celebrities are known to be popular. That's like one of the main facets of being a celebrity. They have a lot of popularity. And with this popularity comes a lot of different feedback. There's people that love them, there's people that hate them, there's people that want a lot of bad things for them. But as a celebrity, you don't see all of these celebrities just like dropping dropping down and like ceasing to exist because one person wanted ill will for them. So this is a good example of how the law of thought transmission would be bounced back, because that energy, they are protected. Like they have this certain protection in this certain energy field that isn't allowing all of the negativity or even the positivity to influence how they behave. And one of my favorite interviews with Angelina Jolie, she talks about how as she was growing up as a kid, she learned that the positive and the negative criticism and compliments, she learned how to take both of those compliments and the criticism. And she said, don't just like disregard them. Don't take them seriously, because at the end of the day, you have to do what's good for you and you have to do what you feel you are called to do. So she doesn't take positive feedback in a good way, or she doesn't take negative feedback in a good way. Like she is very neutral, very indifferent. She, in other words, is very unbothered. She just doesn't care. She does not care what the feedback is. This is important to understand when, let's say, you're wanting to attract an SP or you're wanting to attract a celebrity. It's really this interesting dynamic, right? Because are they rebounding? Are they accepting the information? It's up to you. And so this is where I want to talk about the different parallel realities because there are different realities and there's one reality where that version of the person is accepting it and then there's a version where they're not accepting it. And this is why I've been this is why I haven't wanted to talk about Everyone Is You Pushed Out because really any video that I've seen on Everyone Is You Pushed Out, they just state what it is and then they're like, "Okay, it's done." But then if we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty, people that are on social media, people that are influencers that receive a lot of hate or receive a lot of negative feedback, like why would we say that's your fault? Like it's your fault that you're receiving negative feedback, or it's your fault that people don't like you, or it's your, you know what I mean? It gets into this weird wonky zone where it's like, okay, well, there's something bad happening in the world right now. Is it my fault? Is it my fault that there's a hurricane happening? Is it my fault that there's all of these things happening in my awareness? It's a lot. So, one of the answers that I have for the very global experiences, because I know that there's a collective consciousness, my answer is I don't know. And that, I don't know. That's just that. I think it's much better to be wise and say that you don't know something when you truly don't know. Because I've gone back and forth with this concept. I've researched it many, many times. I've thought of different examples. Do people really not accept what you're thinking, or is it just a lack of persistence? Um, it's very interesting because if they're still in your reality and they stay in your reality, then you're continually putting them in the present moment. So even past imaginal acts, you're replaying them over and over again. And if they're still in your consciousness, then that means that you're still pulling that emotion, you're still bringing that event to life, and you're recreating it over and over and over again. My head is starting to hurt now. It's too much. Okay, so in addition to this concept, which I'm going to tell you now my personal belief. My personal belief is that if everyone is you pushed out, then you shouldn't take things personally. That's my stance on this. And in regards to the law of thought transmission, in answering this comment, if you want something to happen, then you can have that circumstance happen. You will see a version of it in your mind. Your reality will bring forth a perspective that is true and validates and confirms that imaginal act, that thought, that affirmation, whatever it may be. And you know this to be true when we look at, so this is the 4 agreements. And one of the, I think this was the second or the third agreement. Let me make sure. He says, yes, it's the second agreement. The second agreement is to not take anything personally. And he says this, he says, nothing other people do is because of you. That is completely opposite of what Neville just said. Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves. All people live in their own dream, in their own mind. They are in a completely different world from the one we live in. When we take something personally, we make the assumption that they know what is in our world, and we try to impose our, world on their world. He is quite literally saying, don't take anything that people say as a big deal. Everybody's going through their own thing. Everybody has we're all like slivers of consciousness that are experiencing these different things, and you don't have to take it seriously. Whatever somebody's going through, like that's none of your business. And then you have this completely different perspective, completely opposite, 180, where it says everything that is happening to you is because of you. Everything. And they both exist. They're both valid. This is the paradox of life. This is really deep. This concept is not for beginners at all. And so if you're new to the law of assumption, um, again, I would read something that is more in alignment with just the law of assumption. This is much more um, than that basic concept. My understanding of everyone is you pushed out is that we are all a part of the big one, God-like collective consciousness. Yes, exactly. So the good, the bad, everything, literally everything that you could possibly think of. So it is everything and then it's nothing at the same time, which is where we fall into this paradox, right? Because you have spiritual leaders, right? Spiritual leaders that are like, everything that happens to you or everything that is reflected to you, don't take personally because it's none of your business and everyone has their own situation going on. And I agree with this, by the way. Like I agree that like personal importance, he talks about personal importance or taking things personally is the maximum expression of selfishness because we make the assumption that everything is about me. When I mean everything is about you, but at the same time everything's not about you. This is it's just a lot. It's a lot. So he uses an example and he says, using an earlier example, if I see you on the street and I say, hey, you are so stupid without knowing you, it's not about you, it's about me. So anyone who were to comment and say, uh, like a rude comment to me, right? I'd just be like, oh, okay, well, that's not a big deal. That's about you. It's not about me. So you don't take it personally. If you take it personally, then perhaps you believe you are stupid. So then this goes back to Neville's concept where he says if you are in the vibrational resonance, so if you choose to accept that, that's where free will comes in. If you choose to accept that with the law of liberty and the free will that you've been given at birth and you decide, "Oh yeah, that actually resonates with me," then that's when it's not rebounded, they actually accept it. And this is why Neville Goddard is very, he states it over and over and over again to say that you think of things lovely. Think of things lovely. Think of things that you actually want to happen for yourself. And think of those things for other people as well. If you have a very, negative mind or you don't want things that are good for other people, then one, that's not your truth. That's a lie. And two, it's not about essentially having something negative happen to someone. It's just about releasing and having that freedom for yourself. Neville Goddard has talked about this, and I'll briefly mention it, and then I want to hear your guys' thoughts. But Neville, he says, I get questions about, well, then why do people, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, but like, why do people like hurt other people? Why do they get rid of them on this earth? Why do they do bad things? And Neville Goddard's response to that is, it's not that they're wanting to get rid of those people. They know that they know innately that they're not supposed to do that. It's the lack, it's the feeling and the thought of lack that they can't get out of that situation. They can't express freedom unless they do things that are not right, right? They're inhumane. So it's not that they are, inherently bad people. Like people are not bad, right? But it's this idea that they need to do this, they need to do X, Y, and Z in order to experience this release, experience this freedom or this relaxation. Um, and then this goes into psychology and like different forms of, I, I won't get into all of that, but it's very interesting because the basis, right, is to have love, joy, peace. Those are the fundamental. We want security, we want certain things in life. There's like a fundamental basis. And when those needs are not being met, then people will take measures and will take certain circumstances to try to fulfill those needs no matter what. So even with desires, when we start talking about desires, they're very automatic. Desires are automatic. So whatever state that person is perfectly in, right? No state is wrong. Whatever state you are in that is perfect, that will be expressed outwardly. And it's just about having that compassion, having that grace to know that the state that they're in is real. That is a reality for them. And they are doing whatever they believe through their life experience that they need to do in order for them to experience that freedom, that release. I was talking to someone, this was like, I want to say a month back, and they said they were, they came back to me a couple days later. They were like, what you just said completely just, I've been thinking about it for months now. And I told them, I said, there's not one person on this earth that I have met that I got to know that I truly didn't like. Because when you start to actually get to know people or actually get to hear their life experience or where they're coming from, where their perspective is, you'll realize that like there's so much love for them and there's so much compassion and grace because then you're like, oh, well, that's why they did that, or they grew up in this circumstance and they truly felt that this was the solution to their problem. Again, there's not one person that I've ever met that I actually got to know and truly did not like. um, and again, this is why I have not talked about this concept, because it's very deep. It there's a lot of holes in it. There's a lot of, it can become very negative too, because it's just like it's a deep hole. As light as it could get is how dark it could get as well. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I hope that this is making sense to you guys and that I'm providing clarity. Um, it's a pretty advanced topic. So how manifesting an SP works. It is whatever you believe to be true. Whatever you believe to be natural and true, that is what is true for you. And if you believe, because at one point I didn't think that it was possible to manifest an SP, that's what I thought. But then once I found this solution and I found it through visualization. Yeah, I found it through visualization, and I realized that I could manifest an SP. That opens your perspective to being able to manifest that. It is literally whatever you believe it to be true. So let's say in the instance where Neville says that it'll rebound. Let's say, for example, you decide that it's not going to rebound, that everything, that you are more powerful, and that you, as the conscious creator, and you can decide this, you, as the conscious creator, have that power within you to have this person come forth, and you can have that internal conversation, and that it's not rebounding, right? And it's done with love because we're following the golden rule. So you think that, and it changes you, it's changing your inner experience. Then that person is going to show up, and they're going to present that perspective to you. And that's the law, right? So whatever you are assuming to be true, you're assuming to be natural and real for you, actually, not fake. You actually believe that's going to happen for you and that it's a true reality, and it's possible because other people did it and there's testimonials and I've conjured up all this convincing information. Then that will reflect. We all live in different realities. You can be sitting in the same room with someone and be in completely different realities. That that's a good comment. Yeah, it's that's why everyone is you pushed out is so interesting. It's fascinating, and it's also something that can make you feel really good, and it can also cripple you. Like there's people that I know that have dealt with this issue, especially when we go into the manifesting community, of feeling this weight, like, oh, this person, let's say it's something small. This person didn't text me back, or this person is arguing with me and it's my fault. Or it's my fault that I'm in this situation. It's my fault. Like, yes, you do create your own reality. However, with this whole concept of everyone is you pushed out, it's like you have this ability to choose whether or not you want to take things personally. And with the free will that you're given, you can choose the thoughts that are in favor of whatever experience you're happening and whatever experience is happening to you, right? So, in other words, it's not necessarily what the circumstance is, it's how you are responding to the circumstance. People ask me, how do I know if I'm going to manifest it? How do I know if the SP is going to contact me? How do I know? How do I know, right? You know, this is your indicator. I'm going to tell you. You know that circumstances have changed when the exact same circumstance is happening and your reaction to it is different. So the way that you respond to something is different. For example, there's two options. This is a very simplistic thing. Somebody gives you $10. You have the option to put it in the bank or you have the option to spend it. Now somebody's giving you $10, right? This is a reoccurring experience. They give you $10, you spend it on something. They give you $10, you spend it on something, right? The moment that the manifestation or the circumstance changes is when you decide that you're going to respond differently and then you put it in the bank. You receive the $10, you put it in the bank. Again, this is very simplistic, but that's a good idea or a good example of how you will know. It's like your response to things are different. The same thing could be happening over and over again, and most times it does in reality because it needs to catch up to you. Reality has to catch up, right? It's malleable, but there is a period of time, right? That period of time, God only knows. I don't have that answer. So there's this period of time, but until that time comes, your response is different to it. That's why circumstances don't matter. Only your state of being matters. Okay. Like I'm manifesting over a year per se, but things, as I told you before, it went he being obsessed with me to barely talking. It's weird. Isn't that so interesting? People don't believe that manifesting is real or like they want to like fight with this idea that things aren't changing. Yet, in the beginning when you first met the person, they were obsessed with you. And then later on, as change happened and your thoughts changed and you got to know the person better, you picked out their flaws, you picked out things you do like, then all of a sudden things have changed. It's like the proof is in the pudding. Things are always changing. So if you are able to change them and change your reality into where you are receiving this person and they aren't actually they're not doing anything. It's the lack of action, right? Then you can also manifest the situation you had before. You have to get yourself I want you to ask yourself, if it's for an SP, you ask yourself, how was I behaving? How was I responding when I first met them? And that's it. You go back to that state. You go back to that state of how you were reacting when you first met them. And I bet you were not like you weren't worried about them. You weren't making a big deal out of it. You were relaxed. You were focused on yourself. It's very interesting, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding. If you were able to create a dynamic that went 180, then you can also go 180 again. Can we manifest two things at the same time, or focusing on two things at a time would just cancel the possibility of even one? I would need to know a little bit more about the situation. I think it's a bit too general for me to answer, but I will say this, that usually the better it gets, the better it gets. So Abraham Hicks talks about this. If you are focused in, let's say there's so many different things happening, right? Like you've got one thing that's going great, and then you've got seven things that are going wrong. If you focus on that one thing that's going great, then all of the other things that are going wrong will meet you at that higher frequency. This is, I think, a lot of times since manifestation is so simple, I think that it can get a bit more complex when we start talking about topics like this because um, You really, I mean, honestly and truly, if you're watching this video, then you're in the vicinity to hear this. You can not focus on the manifestation and still receive it. You can you hear this all the time with people who don't even understand manifesting. They're like, "Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking about getting my SP," or "I wasn't," or they would say like, "I wasn't thinking about getting into a relationship. He just scooped me up." Like, you hear this all the time. "I wasn't looking for it, and then it happened for me." It's like, yeah, because they were focused on things that made them feel good, and because they were focused on that one thing or those couple of things that made them feel good, all the other things came rushing in. So, you can manifest a completely new life if you want to in a day's work. If you change your mind and you get into a state where you're accepting a new reality where you lift the burden, you're like, "Okay, I'm going to surrender to the flow that I know exists in me," right? I don't get these good thoughts for a reason. Like, these good thoughts are what I'm supposed to be experiencing in the first place. I wouldn't even be able to think it if it wasn't possible for me. Sorry, there's a you guys can hear it. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it though. It's like a ambulance. Everyone is me pushed out necessarily implies that no one actually exists but me. Each character in my play represents a particular aspect of me, so in effect, each character is a mirror of me. Right. So that is another definition of everyone is you pushed out. And that again, it's what you make of it. I'll go back to what Bashar says. He says, fundamentally, life has no meaning. Fundamentally. So, whatever you decide is happening in your reality to be good or to be bad, that is so. Like, absolutely everything. So, if you believe that the negative comment that you received, or, your, your parent in a bad mood, or, your friend in a bad mood, and they're giving you that energy. If you take that personally, then that's something that you can choose to experience. If you also choose to experience a reality where that same situation is happening, and then you think to yourself, I'm just, people must see me as such a comfortable place. They must see me as like such a peaceful person because they're willing to open up to me. They're willing to tell me about their stories. I just gave you two completely different perspectives of life, right? Like, there's one where, oh, yes, like I'm such a safe space for people to come to, and like they feel like they can talk to me. And then there's the other one where, like, why is this happening? I'm doing something wrong. Why are they coming to me with all of this negativity? Like, it's fascinating. Okay. So one is about SP and the other one is about my career. Which one should I focus on? You should focus on the one that brings you the most joy. If it doesn't feel good to focus on the SP, then drop it. Think about what you want to think about. If it feels good to think about a job and like the experience you would have at the job and the environment and the perks that you get from the job, all that, think about that. Yeah, it's like a game of chasing. Earlier he was chasing, now it's opposite. It's funny to think about, right? It's just at some point you got to laugh about it, right? Because I mean, I went through that with one SP in particular. It's like I was watching it. At first, I was unconscious. I didn't know exactly what was going on. But then after some time, I was like, the common denominator is me. I don't know. Like, okay, at some point, I'm going to have to look at this pattern and be like, you're doing some stuff, girl. You've got these thought forms that are creating this dynamic. And then once I realized I had that belief, that was the end of the pattern, not the beginning. Like, some people think that they need to dig and do like healing work and stuff. But once you recognize that you have this belief, that's the end of the belief. Like, that's the end of the lie or whatever you don't want to choose. Anything after that, it's like a conscious choice. You are consciously deciding to choose that reality. But once you find that belief and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no reason for me to believe this way. Then that's the end of it. It doesn't have any more power. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? I will answer. So yeah, everyone is you pushed out, but then again, everyone has free will, and it would be it would be interesting to embody, right, a perspective that sees the world as just like nobody has thoughts, nobody has it. There's different perspectives on this. There's people that think that other people don't exist and that there's absolutely no there's like nobody else out there. Like your family, the people that you encounter, the objects, all that stuff, it's all fake. And then there's a different perspective where it's like people have their own thoughts, people have their own free will. There's other forms of consciousness with me on this earth, and I get to interact with them. That's the version that I choose to exist in. I choose to believe and assume that people are forms of consciousness. Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite way of implementing a new self-concept? My favorite way of implementing. I really like to dance. So I'll dance in my room, and usually when I'm dancing in my room or I see movement, so like whenever I hear songs, I see movement in my head. And I know some people see colors and sound and stuff. I'll like see my body moving, or I'll see big forms, big like a big body of people moving. And at the same time that that's happening, I will feel incredibly empowered. Like it's kind of hard to explain, but just doing things that you really enjoy doing and not doing it for other people, just like doing it for yourself. That's like my quiet time. That's my meditation. That's my flow state. Yeah, the world and the universe is just neutral. Yeah, it's Oh, and I love what you said about picturing things at a bird's eye view, because that's how I love to describe how manifesting works, because I've talked about this before. I say that you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not your body. Like there's a lot of things going on that encompasses you. You're everything and nothing at the same time. So it's this observer effect, right? This observer, and that's the higher version of you. That's like this is the higher version that we're talking about. This higher version has the bird's eye perspective, and we can only see what's currently happening in our reality. Even though we know that other things exist, we're only able to focus in using our conscious mind. Our conscious mind is so good, right? Like I think the ego gets a bad rep, but it's here to give us this experience. So we're experiencing this reality, but then at the same time we can become the observer, and we can like lift up to that zone where we are observing our thoughts, we're observing our emotions, we're letting it all be there, like we're letting all of it sit there. We're like, I don't know, have you guys experienced that before? Have you guys experienced a meditation where like you know that you are here, but like where you're not really here, like you're in this bird's eye effect. It's Man, I've done a meditation like that and it was wild. Okay, example, say I want to manifest SP, however, I visualize petting their dog. Yeah, that's a cool your thoughts on indirect manifestation. Yeah, I'll tell you an example of indirect. Um, I wanted I went into because you guys know that, well, some of you guys don't know, but I posted one of my first videos on manifestation was about how I manifested my dream car. And at the time, that was the Porsche Macan. So when I had manifested it, I also had an indirect manifestation. The Porsche mug, and it's over there in the sink. But I wanted to manifest the Porsche mug because I went into their shop, like at the car dealership, and I was like, "Oh, that is so cute." But then I thought to myself, "I don't want to pay for it." Like, I just don't want to buy it. I would rather them buy it for me. That's what I thought in my head. And sometimes I just like to let things happen. I like to have fun. I like to have fun, is what I'm trying to say. So with my manifestations, I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want to pay for that. So I'll just not, right? And during this time, I knew I had faith. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that mug. I just don't know how, but whatever. So I'm in the entertainment industry and I do auditions, I act, I dance, I do all that stuff, right? And one day, this is probably like a month later, one day I received a message from the guy who sold me the car, and we had kept in contact. Their customer service, by the way, A plus. So they kept in contact with me, and the guy reached out to me and he's like, hey, we have a documentary that we're doing on the Macan. Do you want to be in the documentary? Little on me? Of course. Of course I'll be in your documentary for Porsche. What the heck? He's like, it's going to be airing at the Germany location, which is their headquarters facility. Guys, by the way, this is big, right? Like, I'm like, of course I'll do that, right? I'm like, wow, how cool, how exciting. Wouldn't it be wonderful? So I do this documentary for them, and one of the gifts, they sent me a card. They sent me a card, and inside the card was a gift card. It was a gift card for a certain amount of money that definitely paid for the Porsche mug. So things like I can't make that up. That's a story of like, yeah, I was indirectly manifesting, but like during that process, I manifested all these different things that were so exciting. Like I got to connect with people, I got to be in a documentary, I got to like, I mean, that's just how manifestation works. It's not just a clear cut situation. It happens in like this weird way, and God knows best. I mean, I'm just saying how it is. It's so much fun. So, yes, manifest indirectly. If you have a vision of you petting the dog, go with that vision, especially if it makes you feel good. Like, if it's a vision that's like, that makes you feel good, those are the best ones. Yeah, this reminded me, I've seen videos saying drop the SP and all, manifest someone better, but what if I don't want that? I understand because that's how I was. I was like, "You're not gonna tell me what to do." Like, just flat out, "You're not gonna tell me what to do. This is what I wanna experience. Therefore, I'm going to experience this." It was only until after I got the SP and got what I wanted that I realized my self-concept was, it still is, but my self-concept had changed so much during that time that when I finally started, like, being with the SP again, I was like, never mind. I was like, I think I'm good. But I needed to experience that, is what I'm trying to say. And you, as consciousness, you have every right to experience the reality that you want to experience. Bottom line, you don't need to you don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to like say like why you're worthy of something or why you're not worthy of something. If you want to experience something, then you have in every right to experience that thing. And through that experience, you will manifest more and more and more because it never ends. We're constantly manifesting. We get this right. This is our free will is exactly the whole premise of this. It's like you have free will to experience whatever reality you want. And if somebody's telling you to drop the SP, it's not that they're telling you that you can't have what you want. Most times it's with really good intention, because I've said that too. Like letting go is a form of giving yourself what you need to the point where it doesn't matter if it happens in the external reality. And when it doesn't matter, whether or not it pops up into the 3D reality is exactly when it materializes. So that's the intention. When coaches, like if anybody else says that, the intention is to get you to a point where you're not resisting. That's all it is. It's to where you're not worrying about it and you're you're making space for that to come in. A lot of a lot of dating coaches will give the advice to focus on yourself too because they know Once you start focusing in on yourself and once you start really putting that energy back into who you want to be and the version of yourself, people can sniff it, they can smell it. People smell it, they're attracted to it, they know what's going on. You don't have to post, you don't need to preach about it, you don't need to go on Twitter and announce anything. They feel it, and then they're all on you. So, okay, yeah. So, talking about patterns, like you'll get to experience from someone else, but if that's not what I want, more like it's a pattern and I want to end here. Yeah, I mean, the end of a pattern again is when you identify the belief. That's the end of the cycle. Like that's the end of it. It's not the beginning. So when you identify, hey, I do this. Why do I do that? Because I have this belief that X, Y, and Z, whatever the belief is. And you're like, but that doesn't make any sense. And then you're like, okay, okay, I won't do that anymore. It's just like that doesn't make any sense for me to do that anymore because it's not serving me. It's not getting me what I want, what I desire. And then anything after that, if you still choose to do that, then that's a choice. That's a decision that you're making to remain in that reality. While thinking about SP, I've had dreams about two guys, two nights in a row I've dealt with previously who I have not or barely thought about that all. I find that so interesting. Hold on, let me read that again to myself and then I'll respond. Yeah. Okay. With dreams, I love dreams. I love lucid dreaming too. Dreams are, again, whatever you make them to be. There's this website that I really enjoy going on. I, I don't know the name. I'll probably leave it in the description after this. But whatever the dream is or whatever the symbol is, you look up that symbol. So let's say there's a tree in your dream. You look up what tree means in the vision or like dream world, and then they give you an explanation of it. So you can use that as kind of like a you can use that as a permission slip. But at the end of the day, a dream is a dream. You can assign meaning to it. You can assign whatever meaning you want to it. So, for example, there was a couple of dreams that I would get about an SP, and I decided that that meant that SP was reaching out, and then they did. You can you can do whatever you want, and there's so much power in this. I mean, what I'm saying right now, it's like there's just so much power in being able to choose your own thoughts and choose your own perspective, following your excitement, following your joy. If something negative happens to you, having the free will to say, okay, this is happening in order for me to get what I want. Like having this unwavering faith, having this state of being that is completely just it's very confident and it's very knowing. That is it is extremely powerful. Bashar, he mentioned something that I want to talk about briefly and then I'll probably end it here. But he talks about the difference between knowing and believing. Knowing is stronger. So I I picked up this pen. I don't believe that I picked up this pen. I picked up this pen. I know it. This is this is a very good example to use when you are going to manifest something because most of the time, if something has not manifested, the decision has not been made. The ultimate decision that you are getting what you want has not been made yet. Either there's this belief that what you want may or may not manifest, or there's a probability, maybe it's like, here's the pen. I know that this is the pen. When I decided that I was going to get the car, I was getting the car. I know that I'm getting the car. People are driving the car. I should be one of those people that are driving the car. Like that it was bottom line. So most of the time it's just getting yourself to the place. Some people call I usually refer this as the sick and tired of being sick and tired space where you're like, I'm done doubting it. I'm done worrying about it. I'm done stressing myself out about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to decide. When you make that decision, 99.99999% of it is finished. It's already done. If you decide that you are remaining in a space where this is yours, then it is. And the last question that I will give you guys is I saw this, it was a TikTok, and the person they said, how long do you think it should take for a baby to learn how to walk? How long do you think it should take a baby to learn how to walk? It's like the answer is obvious. It's like, oh yeah, well, the baby should learn how to walk until it learns how to walk. Like that's the amount of time that it takes. Like it doesn't matter how many times the baby falls down, how many times the baby like worries or, is looking at other people and is trying to figure out how to do this thing. The baby is going to walk eventually. The baby is going to walk, and you give that baby the amount of time, the amount of space, and the amount of energy that it needs in order to walk. Yes, it's the same thing as the pregnancy example, which is amazing. I have a hair on my nose. It's the same thing as the pregnancy example. Yes, the baby will get it eventually. If you let the baby do it, then it's it's gonna walk. And the same thing with the pregnancy thing. If somebody told you you're gonna receive what you want, you're gonna receive it. It's done. Like you've got this. You're gonna receive it. I promise you. I promise you you're gonna receive it. Then what do? You go, oh, okay, okay. And then you relax into it. You might prepare for it. Like if somebody told you you're getting that home, you're getting that home. Okay, let me get some new furniture. Let me create a Pinterest board. Let me do these things. Let me let me sit back a little bit. Let me watch this happen. Let me watch this unfold. It takes the weight off of you, and it gives you this perspective of like that's what people are referring to when they say it is done. It is done. It is a version of reality that exists. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to say why or why not you're worthy for it. Yeah, it's mental preparation. Exactly. That's all it is. It's just preparing yourself, digging your ditches, such as like Florence Scholashin. She's talked about digging your ditches. It's I love digging my ditch. If I want to manifest something, then I will prepare for it. I will prepare for it. I'll make sure that like for example, the car one. I've always kept my car clean, but like I made sure that my old car was clean, that it was taken care of, that it was like smelling good. You got to like do certain things that are like preparing you mentally for that experience. So if you know that you want to be a celebrity, you want to be social media star, then what does that mean? You're going to start posting consistently because people want to hear what you have to say. You're going to start, acting a different way too because now you know that like you're just so popular. Like everywhere you go, eyes are all on you. So you need to dress a certain way. You need to talk a certain way. You're going to be friendly to everyone because goodness forbid if you're caught like by the paparazzi being mean to someone. This is what I'm talking about. Like you could really get into this, but it's a full embodiment. It's a full state of being and you just put it on. Hi. Okay, I think that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. It's been very fun. I think we're going into an hour. My goodness. Um, both of these books, by the way, are very good. The Four Agreements is very good. This one helps you just not stress so much. Like it's both of these books here. And then Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard too. Also, by the way, don't let this book intimidate you from buying one of his books. These are all of the books in one collection. So it is a thick boy, but that does not mean that, yeah, like, it's probably the size of this when you buy just one of his books. Yeah, it's so fun talking to you guys. I really enjoy these lives. Um, like when Abraham Hicks says to watch the beautiful unfolding. Yeah, yeah. It really is so beautiful. You can put on the rose-colored glasses and see the world as beautiful. Like Albert Einstein says he's like, do you see the world as a friendly universe? You get to choose. You get to choose if the universe is friendly to you. And if somebody's not friendly to you, then they've just got something going on, and it's not a big deal because at the end of the day, we're all experiencing different realities, and we're all different forms of consciousness. And then you also get the choice to view people as not consciousness. You get to choose people as like not interacting in your world. It's the fundamental principle that you get to decide how you see your reality. Uh, Very, very powerful stuff. That's all I've got for today. I hope that you guys have a wonderful, blessed day. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.